Hello, this is Julie from cuttercrafter.com. I had a question this week about how I made the flowers for my desktop calendar. I did provide PDF instructions, however, sometimes it's easier to follow along with a video to see the process for shaping these flowers. So that's what I'm going to do today. I've already cut out my flower shapes. Each one of these flowers has 4 layers, 2 larger and 2 smaller. In the cutting files that come with this project, you have enough shapes in the cutting file to cut all of these flowers. There are 4 different size flowers. There's the large pink one, then there's a medium that I did in purple or lavender, and the smaller ones are in 2 different small sizes. I used 60-pound cardstock. The light pink and the lavender are in shimmer cardstock, and the darker pink is simply 60-pound Recollections cardstock in the big Essentials pack. And I cut these out on my cutter, and now I'm ready to assemble them. So I'll show you the shaping process. Now I did these very simply. I didn't add any ink. It just requires some glue. I use this Dries Clear glue with the metal fine tip applicator, and then I use this tool, which is a dual-tipped embossing tool with an 8mm tip on one end and a 3mm tip on the other. I only used the 8mm tip, and then a foam pad. Now you could use a mouse pad. I just used this from my flower embossing kit from Heartfelt Creations. So we're going to get started now. And on my mat, I'm going to start with just a small flower here. They're all made just the same way. So I'll start with the small pieces first, and let me zoom in so you can watch better what I'm doing. So each of these layers have 6 petals. You could do this with 5 petals if you wanted. And you could do several different styles of flowers. So how you shape them makes them come out differently. Now this flower is going to look something like this when it's done, only a little smaller. First I'm going to take the smaller flower, and from the back side, this happens to be the same on the front or the back, I'm going to take my 8mm tip, or you can use any size tip that you have, and I'm going to go in a circular motion, pressing against the foam pad on each of the petals. Now this is the back side of the petal layer, and each petal I'm just going around in a circle. And this breaks down the petals and it starts them bending upwards. And then in the center, I'm going to also press. The harder I press, the tighter the layer goes. I can draw it closer by dragging from the top of the petal towards the center, but that wasn't really necessary, and since I have so many flowers, I mostly just did this circular motion until I got a nice tight little bud. When I squeeze it together, you can see the bud forming. So once I get one bud formed, I'm going to take the other small piece do the same thing, round and around and around, round each petal, just to break the fibers and let them curl naturally up. And finally in the center again, pressing straight down in a circle to get that tight little bud. I've got two buds. One's going to go inside the other. And I'll shape the two larger layers here. Again, the same way. And whether you're doing a large flower or a small flower, it's the same. Round and around on each petal, pressing against the foam pad. I used a minimal number of tools with this project because I was watching videos with my husband. This is kind of a mindless activity that you can do in little bits of free time. I like to sit and make a bunch of flowers one day and have them ready for any project. I put them in a basket and they're ready to go. Now in the bigger flower, I'm going to turn it over, the bigger layer, and go round and around and around. Again, in the middle, because this is the front side, and these petals are going to curve outward. So I'll do the same with the final layer. I start on the back, round and around on each one of the petals to break the fibers. And then in the center. Now if I want the petals pulled up more, I can draw my stylus from the outer edge of a petal to the inner petal. Then I'm going to turn it over, lay it flat, and press around the center. Round and round we go. And I want these petals to arch pretty high. And then I'm going to do my gluing. The gluings, you can do it with hot glue, or you can just do it with the glue like I'm doing. So on these, on the very inner petal, I'm going to put a lot of glue over the sides of each petal because I want them to stick together and I want them to stick to the next layer. And that reminds me, before I glue, I put a piece of paper on my foam mat so that I don't get glue all over the mat. Then a bunch of glue on the bottom. And I'm going to shape it all tightly the way I want it to be because the inside bud is part of what makes these flowers look like roses having a bud. And then I'm going to stick that bud inside the other smaller petal layer, make sure it has plenty of glue on the bottom and around the outside, because I want this bud to stick pretty close to the next bud layer. So stick this bud layer inside and hold this bud against the next set of bud layers here. Now these can start opening up more if you want them open more, or you can make them very tight. And you can actually add as many layers as you like. I just made these 4 layers. Then if you want some of these to stay closed, you can add a little bit more glue around some of the outer petals. Now we're ready to put glue on the bottom of this bud and put it in the center of one of the outer petals. Press down and let it dry. Now if we want some of these outer petals to stay close, we'll put some glue along the sides of the petals as well. and then squeeze the petals up against the bud, like that. Once we have those the way we want them, then we can add some more glue. I'll just put the glue on the final petal layer here in the center, and put the assembled flower in the middle. Press it down till it dries a little. And if you want these outer petals to be up a little, you can apply a little bit of glue to the base of each little petal. And then squeeze it all up together. Now it's okay if the petals are squished a little as you let go. Then you can shape them the way you would like. Now, as they're dry, I take a paintbrush. I'm going to put the lid on my glue. I'm going to pen in it. Now, each one of these petals can curve outward to give it more of a rose look. I take my tip of my paintbrush around the tip of each petal and curve it outwards. And you can give your flower some shape by curving that petal away from the center. And when you stack your layers, you want to stack them so that the petals are opposite spacing to give a fuller look. And I'm just turning some of the tops of these petals, these outer petals, outward. And then you can do some of the inner petals. You could shape them before, but I think it's better to shape them when they're all in a group. You can see how you want them to go. Now, if, as you can see on mine, the inside bud kind of opened up, I'm going to press with my ball down the center, push on my paper so that the flower petals stand more tall than wide. And I can add a little more glue around the inside bud to make it close up better, because I like this particular flower to have a nice tight bud. So shape your petals the way you would like them to be, and you may need to add a dab of glue here or there to make them stand the way you want them to be. When you have the petals all shaped and positioned the way you like them, then you can take the leaf layer, and there are 3 different size leaf layers in the cutting file. And to do these, I first folded them in half along the slits. And then I also used my paintbrush to curl the ends away from the center. Just curl right around the points. And then I used again my stylus on my embossing tool, round and round and round, and press down. You notice as you press down, it lifts up. Put a little bit of glue in the center, and this 4 leaf pattern serves as a nice base for the entire flower. can put that flower right in the center, and that gives you a nice look of a rose, maybe even a cabbage rose style. So again, shape it, and then when you're ready, you can, I made all my flowers first, and once they were all made, then I arranged them the way I wanted them on my project. I actually made a lot more than I needed, so I ended up with quite a few flowers, and each one of them has their own little bit of character in a few different sizes. So I'll show you this. Again, we'll zoom out so you can see the project. Put a number of flowers here, one up here in the corner, put some butterflies down here, and then little pockets for my calendar pages for my desktop calendar project. You can find the cutting files for this project at petals.com. So I appreciate you watching. I hope this has helped you figure out how to do these flowers. As I said, there's many different ways to do it. So I look forward to seeing some of the projects you do. I appreciate you watching. If you like this video, please be sure to like it, give it a thumbs up, share it, and come back again. Thanks for watching. Bye.